Scripture says, I am a new creature now. Well, I am thankful for an opportunity to preach slash teach a little bit. I'm leaning a little bit more. Last couple of times up here, God kind of led me towards a little bit of preaching. Tonight, He's kind of led me a little bit more towards the teaching side. But if He changes His mind, y'all will be the first to know. So I'm going to teach a little bit tonight, and I think it kind of goes right along with what Pastor's been teaching in this series so far about these spirits that have been loosed and they're active and spiritual warfare that's going on. Tonight I'm going to teach on being prepared for the battle ahead. And you can be seated. I'm hoping that this will go along with what he's been teaching so far, this series, because I don't want to take anything away from it. It's been a very good series. But the Christian in the New Testament and the Christians today are quite often were compared to soldiers in a war. Paul did this many times. He taught on the whole armor of God, and I'm not going to try to go through the whole armor of God. Pastor taught a wonderful series on the armor of God not too long ago. We can look back at that, so I'm not even going to try to do as well as he did on teaching on the armor of God. But I do want to just kind of do a quick recall in it and just a quick look at it. So the armor of God has many different pieces. So you had the helmet, you had the breastplate, you had the belt, you had the sword, you had the shield, you had the shoes or the shin guards. So these are all the different pieces. Now they all make one suit of armor and something that we all should have. But each little piece of that was kept at a certain different level of maintenance. You didn't clean the helmet as much as you cleaned the sword. And you didn't clean the sword as much as you cleaned the shield. They were different levels of maintenance, different things that we had to keep up with at the same time. Just the same as with your car. Hopefully, you don't have to change your oil as much as you wash the car. And hopefully, you don't have to change the tires every time you fill up the gas tank. It's all one car and it works together in a unit, but you have to keep a different level of maintenance on it. So in our suit of armor, as us today, there are certain things we have to keep more readily maintained than other things. Your helmet of salvation. Paul was pretty convinced when he said, I have persuaded that neither death nor life nor anything here nor present nor here to come, none of those things can separate us from the love of God. Paul was very, very convinced of this. However, he did know, and he did a lot of teaching on the things that would battle against us. So he said that the helmet of salvation, this breastplate of righteousness, I would say that yes, they're important to us, but they don't stay maintained near as much as it was maintaining a sword. A sword was very hard to maintain because even the slightest little misshapes with that sword could mean life and death on the battlefield. Every single one of those pieces of armor were important, but without that sword, he could not truly go to war. So I did look up the soldiers nowadays. They carry a rifle, not a sword. But I checked in on how often they have to clean their weapon, how often they have to keep it maintained. And I found one person who said, you clean and check your weapon after every single patrol, every movement, every guard duty, when you wake up, when you rest, when you eat, when you sleep. You do it at least once per day, if not more than that. And you know, the sword is our weapon, and the sword is this. That's why we say a whole lot. This should be done at least once per day. This is how you can sharpen your sword. This is something that needs to be maintained very often. And this person who was talking about their weapon said, cleaning your weapon should be a ritual. Cleaning it should and does become a reassuring and calming exercise that what you are doing and have done is everything possible to keep you and your family safe. I believe that's something that we have to maintain very, very well. This is our sword. This is not only our sword, but this is something that we should know inside and out because this is how God chooses to meet with us. It's not the only way, but I know many, many times where this is exactly where God met me. This is exactly where God spoke to me. This is exactly what God revealed unto me. This is something we must keep maintained. It should be done daily because it can keep you and your family alive and safe. The truth of the matter is that the reason we have to keep these things maintained is because life, troubles, trials, devils, spirits, and Satan himself do not attack you on a schedule. They attack you completely when you are not ready. And he plans it that way. He doesn't attack you on Tuesday of every week or Wednesday of every week. He attacks you just when he feels you're a little bit weak and that your sword hasn't been maintained just enough. They pick on you when you're weak. They count on the days you'll be unprepared. But we want to be prepared for the battle that's ahead, because you can guarantee he will fight you. Spirits will come. Life is going to happen. Those things will happen. We can't avoid that, but we have to be equipped and maintained for the things that are about to happen. Now, I don't want to go over it all, but God equips us. There's something I want to focus on tonight. He equips us for the things we're going to face. I want to quickly go tonight on how he helps us face life. He gives us strength to fight the devil and helps our faith for our future and trials. So in our life currently, he has equipped us with things to help us fight life. He's empowered us to fight the devil, and he gives us faith to fight the future. In your life, things happen. I love the way Pastor puts it. If you get a flat tire in the morning, the devil did not come by and poke the tire. It wasn't the devil doing that. It was the nail in the road. That's what was attacking you. Life happens, and it happens to every single one of us. And sometimes it's more than just a flat tire. Sometimes it's the death of a loved one. Sometimes it's some pretty severe situations that really get us down. Life will happen to us all. But God did not just leave us without anything to combat this with, without anything to protect us. He gave us some things. And what I find very important to fight in life is peace, love, joy, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. Perhaps you're recognizing these. This fruit of the Spirit. God gave something to us, the fruit of the Spirit that God was going to put in us. It starts bearing fruit. And this fruit is something that we can use to face the trials that life is going to put our way. I'm not bothered by, and I'll admit it right now, I have a leaking tire. Every single day I have to get out there and air it up. But the reason I don't let it ruin my day is because that is not near as important as the other things in my life, because I have peace and I have joy about some other things that are happening. Life gets you down. It will happen very hard. I mean, have you ever had somebody just come in and just ruin your whole day with a bad attitude? But sometimes people come in and ruin your day, and you can just step back and take a breath, spend just a moment with God, and there's just joy that starts to fill up. He equips us for what life throws our way, because it's going to happen regardless. And God did not want to just leave us with just nothing. He gave us that. He gave us peace. And it's something that we have to build. It's something that we have to maintain. Perfect example. A 2-year-old does not have very much long suffering. They don't. I've been around enough babies and kids. They have no patience, no gentleness. They have to learn that as they grow older. And as you go through situations in life and God is helping you, the Spirit leads and guides into all truth, that Spirit, those fruit, can start to grow. You see, because you can plant a tree, and you'll get fruit from that tree. But the more you take care of that tree, the better fruit you'll get. You can get fruit that's all withered up and still call it fruit. But if you take care of that tree, you can get the best fruit possible. So it's something we have to take care of. God equips us for those matters that happen in life. But what about things that we really can say that Pastor's been teaching about, these spirits that fight against us? Because the devil does fight you. He's not someone who just sits back and says, maybe I'll throw something their way. He is constantly looking for a way to pick at you. The Bible describes him as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's just looking for the opportunity. So he will attack you. But God did not just leave you with something to handle life and not the devil. He empowered us. There is something that should be said about the prayer of a person. Your prayer has power. And when something comes against you that is beyond you, then you should not think that you have to handle it alone. why don't you pray and bring it to the one who's bigger than your problem and your situation? Because the devil loves to fight in ways that you can't fight. I remember when I was young and I was really starting to learn in church, and just like a kid, and maybe y'all have prayed the same prayer, I said, God, if I could just put my hands on the devil, I think I could beat him. But I can't do that because he doesn't work in what I work in. He's not a natural being. He works in ways that I can't control. But I learned that I can start making a difference in that realm through my prayer and through my praise. That's how I could start making a difference in that. People's prayer, I think that sometimes we say it, but sometimes we forget it, how much power there is in prayer. There was a song that a friend of mine used to sing, and it was one of my favorite ones. It was some little child listened to God and got on their knees and prayed me out of harm's way. One prayer can do so much. So when things start coming against you or coming against the church, coming against your friends, coming against your family, the best way you can fight is on your knees. That prayer and praise, because praise preceded victory. Whenever Israel went to war, many times they would send Judah out first because they were the praise. They were the ones that lifted up the praises of God, and God would fight for them, and then they could come in and do what God told them to do. So our prayer and our praise are weapons that God has empowered us with to fight these spirits and to fight the devil. Because God is not going to put a plan and a process into you and then just say, good luck, I hope you make it. No, He's going to empower you. He's going to put things in you that you have weapons to fight the enemy with. Paul even mentioned just saying that he which begunneth a good work in you will complete it. So if God has put you on a path and has started you in a direction, God will keep you. He will keep that strength. He will keep the things in you that you need. And finally, we found ways to handle life. And we found a way to fight the devil. Now, what about the trials and the tribulation? What about the future? What about things that are completely beyond our control? What about the times when you really need God and you pray and you hear nothing? What about the times where, God, there's a fork in the road and I need one of the two ways and I really need you to answer, and God is silent? There's one statement that I always really liked. Somebody said that you always know the teacher is silent during the test. God is silent because He's watching you. Not because He's forgotten you. Not because He's left and hope you make it well. No, He's watching you. He's just staying silent for a moment. I taught the Sunday school about this. Why would God stay silent when you really need an answer? And I said, one, it's because you have to find that there is some strength in you. God is letting you know you can make good choices. You can choose the right path. You've got some strength more than you think you've got. The second is because God can take that opportunity to equip you with things you've never had before. He can take that opportunity to where your prayer life can then elevate to a new limit. God can take that time where your praise is no longer led by the music and no longer led by feeling, but my praise is just going to be there like David. David danced around and nobody said anyone was playing at the moment. David was dancing in praise because he had gotten to a place where God was silent. He said, you know what, I'm going to praise anyways. So God will show you have strength more than you think, and God will equip you with things you've never had before. That's why God is silent. And those times happen to everyone. If we showed of hands, how many times have you prayed and God didn't say a thing? I can raise both my hands and everything I can raise. There's times I've prayed and I needed an answer and I didn't get it. But God was saying, I believe in you. The things that you're praying for that you haven't seen happen yet, and the things that you're wanting to do in God, the things that just haven't happened yet, it doesn't mean that God doesn't want it, and it doesn't mean that God is not paying attention to you. He's wanting you to keep pressing forward, just a little bit forward. He wants to show you you've got that strength. You can pray that next prayer. Do we really think, this is a question that I have to ask, do you really think that the God of all creation, the one who literally spoke everything that we know into existence, would somehow forget where we are? The one who knows every thought and intent of your heart somehow lost you and can't find you. He knows exactly where you are, and He knows exactly what you're going through. He knows exactly what you're feeling. He knows exactly the thoughts that are going through your head, and He knows exactly when, okay, now I need to step in because they can't take anymore. You know, people really, really struggle when they don't have something to hold on to. I've known too many people who gave up because they didn't have some kind of rock to hold on to. There's times God is silent, and we lose that little foundation to stand on. But God knows exactly when you're just about too far, and God says, okay, let me reach back out again, and let me pull back. God loves us more than anything else could ever in the world. He loved us first, and God cares for us. He gave you things to handle everything you face in life. Everything you face in life. Every single upset feeling, every single emotion that goes beyond control, God equipped you with things. That's why we have to have that fruit of the Spirit. That's why we have to have that armor. That's why we have to keep it maintained. Because God gave it to us if we keep it up. If I can keep this up, I heard one person, it was a good friend of mine, he had been through some rough times in life where it seemed like there was no direction from God. And he told me this. He said, I learned one thing throughout all this. He said, I learned that even though God was silent, if I focus on this my whole time and I do everything I can to follow the Lord, He keeps me every time. So whatever situation you're dealing with in your life, perhaps everything is fine right now, or maybe there's some prayers that you really need an answer to that hasn't been answered yet. All I can say is maintain the sword. Water that tree again, and just see if God is not going to just keep keeping you and keep equipping you and keep putting things in you that is exactly what you need to push just another day forward. We have to be prepared for the battle ahead. Now, I can't go into big details and explaining of how spiritual warfare goes on, but I do know that there are things in this world that are trying to keep people down, and they're trying to destroy them. And some of it is just us. Some of it we do to ourselves, but there are some real spirits, and there are some real powers, wickedness in high places. There are some real things, but we have to take those things. We have to take that fruit of the Spirit to battle our flesh in our life, and then we take the power that God gave to us, and we can battle those spirits. And then with faith, we put all of our faith in Jesus, and we know whatever lies ahead, He's going to take care of. So if we'll all stand tonight, I'm not very long, but I just had this point to get across. Tonight, if your tree hasn't been watered in a while, tonight is the night that it needs to be watered. Because I don't know how many, there's more people in here that have done gardening than me. Far more. Far more. But it doesn't take long for a plant to die, does it? I've heard too many people say, I've tried to keep up plants, and then they buy plastic plants because they can't keep the other ones alive. They die so quickly if they're not taken care of. If your tree hasn't been watered in a while, if that fruit of the Spirit is not really, if that joy and that peace is not there, tonight is a good night to water that tree and go back to the well of God and say, Lord, I need a little bit of water to pour on this tree. If your sword is starting to get a little rusty, that was something God said to me a long time ago when we started talking about the armor of God. God spoke to me and said, is your sword rusty? Is your shield got rust all over it? Has it been cleaned? Has it been maintained in a little while? If it hasn't been, tonight is the night. When you go home tonight, I'm pretty sure everyone in here has access to a Bible. Even if you don't have a physical one, they're all over the internet. We have access. God gave us a tool. We got to keep that sword sharp. Or maybe your faith is just going down just a little bit. Maybe those prayers that God has not answered yet are really starting to weigh on you. I urge you, just follow the sword, water the tree, and just push another day and another day. God will keep you without a doubt. So tonight, whatever you have need of, God is willing to put out to you tonight. So I wonder if we could all just go to God in prayer right now. Let's water the tree, and let's sharpen that sword.